Boomer Bust 11. Mind Sculpt Games is now entering month 4 in our economics playground of opening a brick and mortar store in a town of 15,000 using online sales to propel and build our startup cost. Now, a couple interesting metrics that happened almost on the same day around August 31st. Now, first, little happy dance here. We hit, Mind Sculpt Games, I'm going to show you this, we hit 20,000 feedback on TCGplayer, 100% positive. I want you to see the proof. Oh, come on, zoom in right. All right, well, this is my account on TCGplayer. This is our feedback rating, and our lifetime feedback is at 20,364, 0 negative percentages. That's what runs this business. You can see 100% feedback in the last 365 days, and most of our sales are in that period. Now, TCGplayer, we're a TCG Pro store. A ton of our sales are online. We use eBay. We've used other routes in the past, but really, TCGplayer is where it's at for us. Our website is a TCG Pro portal store, and we make lots of sales there. And to get to 20,000, that's a big deal because that means we have a good reputation online. It is hard to have 100% feedback. And there are stores that get to like 88% feedback and they're done. There are stores that have 97% feedback, and I don't buy from them if I gotta buy something. Feedback really matters, so for that to be at 100% over 20,000, that's a big deal to us. So that's interesting metric number 1. Now pair that at the end of the month with interesting metric number 2. This is the first month that Mind Sculpt Games as an LLC, we have brought in more money through our square up portal sitting next to our cash register, in-person brick and mortar sales, than eBay and TCGplayer combined. There's a fly on my nose. What can you do when you're recording? Okay, so that's really interesting. Now, I've been selling online since I was 13. If you've listened to our channel, you've heard that before. I started with eBay. I've used things like Magic Online Traders Leagues, Buy Sell Trade Post, TCGplayer. Now, here's the truth. When I was buying and selling and doing online things, that's fairly easy for me. I think you can do that kind of thing without a business account. Or sorry, not without a business account, without a business degree. But a business degree helps with an awful lot of things in structure and management and in-person sales and retail displays and all those things I really don't know a lot about. So for me to be in the realm where I have a business that for the first month has earned more in counter sales than online sales, I'm at the point where I need to learn rapidly. Now here's the truth. Part of that is because we've run a little dry on buying collections. So if anybody's out there and you have $5,000 worth of magic cards sitting in your basement that you haven't touched since Arabian Nights, I promise I will pay better than anybody locally. I will do you honest. We'll talk through it. I love to buy collections. Come visit me. Part of the reason we sold more in-store than online is because I haven't had a big hit. So in our accounts, we set aside a good amount of money for collection purchasing. And we've had a lot of singles come through our counter, you know, trade-ins of this $5 card or this $10 card. But it's been a long time since I have bought a $5,000 collection. And I would love to, absolutely love to. That's probably my favorite hobby, my favorite thing to do. And it's the engine of our business, or was. But our business is constantly evolving, constantly, like way faster than I can control sometimes. So hopefully it grows in ways that we want it purposefully to. But it's time to shift our focus a little bit. It'd be nice if a collection walked in our door. I might drive down to Wichita if I find the right collection. But really, most of our income now is coming through our doors. We haven't paid ourselves $1 yet. Instead, we've been putting our money, well, we have a certain acquisitions fund where we could buy your $8,000 collection if you walked in our store with a bunch of magic cards. But we've been putting all our money back into product at this point. And what that means is we have way more stuff than when we started. We probably have double or triple the inventory value that when we did day one, which that's good for us. And we have a diversity of products. But now, as a fledgling businesswoman, it's kind of weird to say, you know, there's a big difference between me selling online and me running a shop. But as a fledgling businesswoman, there's things I have to learn. And when we talk about those are store policies. So I've made videos about play space and whether that's worth it or not. But then you also got to think about your player base and what products do you support and what lines do you bring in and how much investment do you put in a brand new card game like Street Fighter, or how much product do you buy for something that's really hot online like Star Wars Destiny, but you don't have a solid local player base yet. We've actually had Star Wars Destiny packs in since pretty much day one, and we've sold very few of them, which is weird because if I sold them online, I could sell them above MSRP. So the demand nationally is not necessarily the demand I meet locally with 15,000 people, maybe 20,000 if we count our 5 to 10 mile driving radius. We're in a rural Kansas area, so we're the big town out of all the towns of, 500, 2,000, 4,000. So we're kind of the center. I don't think there's another Walmart for a while. There's not another gaming store for a while, so we do get some of that traffic. But now I got to think, how do we manage a store? Now, one day I'd love to be in the place where I have a vision and I have store policies and I can clearly communicate those enough to a potential employee in week one that they know how I want to run my business, how we want to run Mind Sculpt Games, the ethos of the place, the feel of it, and our priorities. But if I hired somebody right now, I would be very scared because I don't know how to communicate that. It's still developing. Like, the policies and procedures we had in place on day one are pretty different than what we're going to do in month 4. And that's just because we're learning constantly and we have to evolve with that. If we have an event that doesn't get attendance, that doesn't mean we're going to run it for 3 more months. If we have an event that's doing very well, maybe we'll move that to another one. If you like to watch Boom or Bust, we got a YouTube channel, you can check it out. But our last week's was actually about Pokemon and Trainer Tuesday, because we opened on Tuesday, we needed an event, we wanted to support a product line, we wanted to enrich our community, and we wanted to generate some sales on a weekday. So we thought Trainer Tuesday after school, adults will help kids learn how to play Pokemon and give them fair and structured environments to play and trade in. That seems good. Now, hopefully that continues to grow, but we had lower numbers than we'd hoped for in first Trainer Tuesday. Next one's in about 2 days, Tuesday, 4 o'clock, Mind Sculpt Games, we'll be here. But we really got to think about how human nature works without mouse clicks. We got to think, how does a store run in person? And how does a store run in a way that benefits our sales most? Now, personally, I love Magic. It's how my husband and I met. My entire family plays Magic, and all of our workers have some experience in Magic the Gathering. But that doesn't mean we can sit down and play with our players on the clock. I mean, you got to run it from a business perspective, right? And it doesn't mean that everybody walking in our store wants to buy Magic. So Magic really is our engine. It's our TCGplayer sales mainly for direct. We got 3 counters of Magic. We got lots of Magic product. If I were to look up my sales categories in Square, Magic Sealed is going to lead it. I mean, those are just obvious things for a card shop, right? Go about circa 1994, 95. Why do card shops exist? Well, somebody figured out that Magic singles were a high enough margin and hot enough commodity that if they opened up a place where they paid rent and they sold dual lands, they made a lot of money. If you were around in 1993 and buying packs of Revised for $2.75 and you were pulling out dual lands, those are $300 cards today. So why do card shops exist? Well, the honest truth is a lot of card shops exist, and us included, because people have been playing Magic for a while and there's profit potential in the singles market. Now, the way a card shop can operate in 1990 something, like 97, 98, is different than the way we operate in 2017. So our TCGplayer inventory, every card in there is listed, priced, cataloged, condition sorted, and it has to be input, it has to be filed, and then if it sells online, it has to be pulled. So there's a human time factor there. It is a human resource management question to look at our prices for our Magic cards and to sell those. So here's the truth. If one of my players, my local players at Mind Sculpt Games, comes in and says, I want this card, this card, and this card, and they're all in our online inventory already, and they say, I want it for this price, I'm not a pawn shop. But the truth is, if I have cards priced already, inputted, filed, and cataloged in my TCGplayer inventory, it's pretty hard for me to fudge on those prices. I mean, especially if it's a card. We do have some cards in our cases, and we save our Planeswalkers, we save our lands, we save some standard stuff, we save some hot cards. I have a Gaia's Cradle in there. I could list that on TCGplayer and sell it in a day if I put it at TCG low. But we want to be able to fuel our local player base. So again, there's this balance. Like, we built ourselves by being an online store, but we are now bringing in more money in store than online. So how do we feed that balance? Do I keep the Gaia's Cradle in the case? It's been there since day one. If I really think I could sell it online in a day, and I've had it for over 3 months in my store, I mean, that's a card that is going to go up in value over time. Gaia's Cradle is a very safe keep. We have cards that we are not selling right now because they're on the reserve list, and we plan to sell them one day when we want to pay for a commercial property. I mean, there's Magic cards that you can keep around. Dual lands, shock lands, those are pretty safe. Now, here's an interesting thing. Ixalan is reprinting lands that have been printed before. And if you're new to Magic, it'll be real interesting for you to do some price research on things like, Daniel, what's the name of the cards being reprinted? Name one. Glacial Fortress. Okay, so that card's had a lot of reprints, mostly in base sets. And the first time it was printed, it was probably like a $5 to $7 card. And when it's not in standard, I bet you could pick up a Glacial Fortress for $2. We probably have about 20 that we have saved back. We'll see. I guess I should count those. But it's very interesting in Magic economics to look at what reprints do to prices of highly playable cards. Glacial Fortress is going to end up in a lot of decks. It's pretty much guaranteed. Every time it's been in standard, it's been in play. It's a good card for commander decks. Sometimes modern decks use it. There's an awful lot of lands in modern, though, so whatever's popular at the time, whatever seems most efficient in the decks is kind of what it goes with. But one of the questions we have to look at, 3 cases of Magic cards, that's a lot of product space. And there could be other things in that product space, and I could sell that Gaia's Cradle in under a week online, or I could leave it in my case and see if it sells in the next 3 months. We really want to support a local player base. That Gaia's Cradle is going to stay in that case. Our lands and our planeswalkers are going to stay in that case because we care about our players. We like our players. There are players in here that are really polite and I would think of as friends and that support the store, and they're good and they're local, and they don't seem out for themselves too much, but they're happy to play here and support us, and that's good. But I've been around card shops a lot. And you know how I talked about card shops of the 90s? Well, there were a lot of people in the 90s who thought, wow, this Magic economics, this is really fun, and I want to do this. And you know what? That's great if you want to do it. There's a place for it. But when Magic players like the idea of Magic economics so much, or don't consider it rude to come in and try to sell cards where somebody else pays rent, where somebody else does the marketing work, we've added over 90 new players to the DCI registry since we opened. So there are a lot more Magic players in the area than before we started paying rent and doing marketing. And if someone were to come in my store and say, here's my binder to my players that maybe didn't play Magic before we opened up, or maybe haven't played Magic since Odyssey but came back because there was a card shop in town, if somebody comes in with a binder of a bunch of cards and says, hey guys, I'll give you you give me $5 and you can have this card. Whoa, that's against the rules, right? So that's something I don't really have to worry about in the online marketplace. If you're selling online, you're either paying taxes and doing it right, or you're in an illicit market where the IRS can go look at Facebook and you're not paying taxes. And that's the hard thing about it. You sell on eBay, you take what? 25% commission. You sell a TCGplayer card and it's under $2 and you're making a loss after you ship it. It really kind of depends where you want to be. But it's hard to sell, especially in 2017, okay? If there's an Amonkhet rare, there's like 1 million of those in existence. If there's an Arabian Nights rare, there's about 2,000 of those left in existence. So the Magic economics is definitely different. And people used to sell on commission in card shops. Now, I do some things on commission. We do comics, we do jewelry, we do dice bags, and we have some really cool craftsman, artisan type items. Would I let anybody sell commission Magic cards in my shop? Well, that's a different equation. We sell online, we have tons of stock, we have more inventory. Well, there's no card shop in under an hour, but we have a ton of cards. Okay, we used to have 20,000 online, but I told you I haven't bought a collection in a while. So I have 16,000 Magic cards online. Do I want to let somebody bring in their cards to sell on commission? Well, I don't have comics, I don't have jewelry, and I've decided not to order dice bags because the one that somebody makes locally is really cool, and she's a nice customer, and I enjoy her and appreciate them, and they're reversible, and they're homemade. I mean, yes, I want to sell those. No, I don't want to sell anybody magic cards on commission. Do I want to let anybody sell in my shop? Well, store policies are tricky, but this is one of ours. Now, this might be controversial. I talked to people in the game store retail sector quite a bit online, but here's our policy that we have posted by our cash register and by our players. And it says, please note, the only cash transactions that take place at Mind Sculpt Games should go to those who pay the rent. We hope you enjoy the free play space and healthy community of gamers. Now, to me, that policy makes sense. But, like, as a person, as a customer, I don't go into other people's card shops and, like, I've gone in with a lot of cards, like a 4-slot box of rares. And, okay, this is a specific story. I won't name the game store. But I went into one of their pre-releases. I took my cards because I was sorting through them, and in the time between matches, I wanted to be able to do some work. And some other guy's like, whoa, are those all rares? And he starts looking through them, and he said, would you trade these two? And I say, well, there's not much I'm really looking for right now, but if you have this, I'll trade you. And he doesn't. So he says, well, I'll pay you $3 for it. And it's probably a $2 card. And I say, no, I'm not really comfortable coming into this store and selling where this guy who runs a nice store, and he's very nice, where he pays rent. I can't sell you this card. And he's like, oh, come on, we could go out back, buy your card, and you could give me the money. And to me, that's insanely rude to make a sale at somebody else's shop, or to even say, I'll meet you out back and sell to you. That undercuts the value of the event I went to, which that person has to put energy and monetary investment into a Magic event to make it happen. So as a player, do I really deserve, am I entitled to walk into that event and at the end of it try to sell stuff where he pays rent and does the marketing and runs his Facebook account and all that? I found out about his event through Facebook. He put that up through his own effort and time. Is that my place to sell? No, absolutely not. Can I sell on eBay? Yes, and eBay encourages me to do that. Can I sell on TCGplayer? Yes, and TCGplayer encourages me to do that. And luckily, both of those track my sales for taxes so I can do it honestly. But if somebody walks into my shop and tries to sell to some of my players that I generate through rent and marketing and all those cost of operations types things, there's a difference. There's an IRS difference, there's a polite difference, and there's just a common sense business difference. So if we're now making more money in store than online, and we have a pretty healthy player base, in what ways do I help protect that player base? Honestly, if somebody comes into my store and rips somebody off because I let people sell here, that's really bad for me. Or if somebody sells counterfeit cards, that's really bad for me. So it seems like a pretty clear-cut policy to me that nobody sells here except the people trained to grade condition, the people who know how to look up value fairly, and the people who have a long and lasting relationship, because they're not going to fly out the next day and be gone. You know, if some out-of-town trader comes in and tries to sell cards here, their reputation's not going to follow them in the same way that Mind Sculpt Games does. So we have at least one store policy that tries to protect us. And there's a couple other things. Like, remember, I don't have a business degree, so we sell food and snacks. In fact, I'm going to show you this because my husband is working right over here right now. We went to Sam's Club, we picked things up, we got drinks, snacks, a little fridge, and he bought those, and he's going to price those, and we're going to sell those. And one of the questions in the industry, do you allow outside food and drink? Well, we sell muffins, but we don't sell sandwiches. So at this point, we've been allowing outside food and drink. Will that be what we do 6 months from now, or if we get a new location that allows us to get into, like, coffee or sandwich sales? You know, it's an evolving process. Right now, I'm fine with outside food and drink, but if somebody spills it on my wall or on my product, or, like, I cleaned up four cups of half-filled drinks that weren't bought here last Thursday night. That doesn't bug me much, but it's just one of those things to consider, because, again, in a business, our dollar per hour rate matters. It matters when we price our TCG cards. It matters when we have to clean up at the end of the night. So is there a place in our business for a policy that says the only food and drink allowed here is what we buy, and then we can decide whether you get the really smelly fish and bring it into our store or not, or whether you have the type of ravioli that would stain our tables if it fell on it, and we can control the food that's in here. Now, is that the right path for us? Right now, it's not. But those are the decisions I'll have to make in the future. Another thing we have to decide is like, what events really serve our profit margins? There are events that serve the players and they feel good about it, but let's just pretend we'll make up a game. We'll call it, oh no, I have no idea what to call it. Let's pretend, okay, Magi Nation. That's a card game I used to enjoy when I was in high school, but let's pretend Magi Nation's still in print and we sell it. And we have a player base that really enjoys it. They love sitting at our tables and playing it, but they don't buy cards from us. Instead, they want this really specific card and they buy it elsewhere, or they buy their product in another town, or they ship it in from online retailers that sell at heavy discounts because they know Magi Nation will not be printed for long. Do I support that event? And I mean, as someone who's running a business, it kind of doesn't matter how much my players enjoy it if they're not spending here. So customer loyalty is a thing that we do want to try to promote, but customer loyalty really is a bottom line numbers thing. If I have somebody interested in a certain type of board game, or somebody interested in a certain card game like Final Fantasy or Star Wars or Street Fighter, if they want to play here and support here, great. Then I'll carry the product and maybe we'll have events. We just had a HeroClix event. We had a 7-person tournament. They were all polite. They were all nice. And they patronized the store. That's a great thing. And we don't really have this problem right now. But looking at our calendar events, when we have to focus more on the store and the retail aspects and all these things I don't know about running and managing a business, that's one of the things we have to look at. Are our man hours producing dollars? Is our time spent in a Magic League or a Modern Win-A-Box or in D&D or in Warhammer? I'm looking at our calendar over there. Are those producing net gains for the business? Is it producing a net gain when I spend time doing a boom or bust video that's on 22 minutes now? Is this going to be worthwhile? We have to evaluate our business decisions not just on how much we enjoy a particular game or how much people seem to be excited about playing at our tables, but how much a product line produces for us. And those are weird things. Like, I'm an educator by nature. I've worried about grading people's essays, writing IEPs when I was a gifted facilitator, and now I worry about Chromebooks and what technology is most useful in the classroom, or when Chromebooks get in the way of classroom procedures. So it's a brave new world, and I'm learning a lot. So thinking about like food in our store, the events that we run, whether or not people can sell in our store, whether or not people can sell in our online Facebook groups that say Magic Players of Mind Sculpt Games. That one's a no, by the way. Don't try to sell in our Facebook created stores. Those are created on business hours, linked to our business page, and marketed by us. But there's some really hard decisions. And you know, when I talk about HeroClix, I've been able to buy and sell some HeroClix at a pretty decent profit margin. But now I'm pretty sure in my store I have over 500 HeroClix single individuals. Some of them with cards, some of them old enough to be without cards. Do I stop buying them? That's another hard decision. I've never really been at the inventory level before where I need to say no to buying. But on eBay I bought that $5,000 War Machine lot, and I've gone through probably a third of it, maybe almost half of it, but unless I upgrade my store subscription and pay $40 a month more for a store, I don't have the selling capacity to sell more on eBay right now. My 500 free listings that I get, they're all going to go towards War Machine and relisting War Machine. 250 of those are buy it nows, 250 of those are auctions. It'll probably take all of those to keep my War Machine listed for the month. But I've been trading for beautifully painted Warhammer stuff. HeroClix would be a good item for eBay. TCGplayer can do it too. But my throttle on eBay sales, because I don't want to pay 40 bucks more a month, because I don't think I can handle the sales volume it would take to recover that, those are important decisions too. So in store, is it almost time to say no to buying? Just for the record, if you're watching this and you want to sell me Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I bought a 16,000 card Yu-Gi-Oh collection last month. I have sorted through about half the identified cards that were in a binder, the rares, super rares, that kind of thing. I haven't touched most of the tins of commons and uncommons, but some of my players have, and they've pulled out super rares. And you know, there are $10 Yu-Gi-Oh commons that I have no idea how to identify yet. I've looked up the top 100 list, and I've price memorized maybe 20 of them. But my brain cannot easily sort through Yu-Gi-Oh! How long is it going to take me to actually process that 16,000 card collection? Maybe by December. So if somebody walks in and wants to trade me Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, if you caught me last month, I'd be more willing. But now I either got to pay you pretty much bulk rate, or I got to say no. And those are hard decisions too, because the volume at which we can buy has drastically increased since we've opened our doors. Now, I've gotten less $5,000 Magic collections than I was in November to, when did we open? In June? But that's kind of a product saturation. Honestly, part of why I was willing to start Mind Sculpt Games is because I figured unless someone's actively pushing Magic product into the community and giving support for people in Great Bend to play, that I'm going to run out of cards to buy. And that's kind of where we're at, is we have players that are actively playing and really enjoying the cards, and they're not selling me their collection. And all the people I used to know from whatever networks I had before that wanted to get out of Magic, I've already bought their cards. So how many more $5,000 collections are there within 2 hours driving time of Great Bend? I don't know, but if you got one, come see me. Just the truth is, I need my business model to be able to sell in store. I need to be able to order from a distributor and make profit that way. Because my past method of buying and selling collections, because I have a couple G's to spend on it, there's only so much more of that I can do. Now, anybody that walks in my store and wants to sell it to me, I'm going to make an offer. Any card. I will not turn down any card. And you bring me 1,000 cards, I will make you an offer, I promise. But there's just only so many more people that can do that until there's more Magic players. We are in a town of 15,000. So going into month 3, we have for the first time sold more in-store than eBay and TCGplayer combined. We have healthy play groups. We had 18 people here for F&M the other night. We've got Commander going. We've got Standard going. Our players love to draft. It seems like we have Hero Clicks that's healthy. We got a pretty good Warhammer community. If you are interested in Warhammer at all right now, 8th edition is hot. We have lots of excited players. We have a paint clinic on the 9th. Warhammer is one of our best products. If I were to talk to you about the top categories in our store, we have Magic Sealed, we have Magic Singles, we have board games, we have miniatures as category 4, led by Warhammer. Then we got things like Yu-Gi-Oh! That's selling real well. Pokemon's doing okay. We're hoping to keep growing that and pushing that. I don't know how much Pokemon Go is still influencing the market, but there are Pokemon players out there and people who want to learn to play Pokemon, and we are the place for that. No offense to Walmart, but they can't teach you how to play and they don't have tables or play space. But you come here and we got both. But again, that's a new realm for me. I have bought and sold and done it through routes like TCGplayer and eBay, but I have not ever trained an employee. Never trained an employee. I've taught English. I've been a gifted facilitator. I've worked at the YMCA with youth running club and volleyball leagues. I've coached t-ball. I've never trained an employee. So if anybody wants to pass on tips for that, if you're watching this video and you think, wow, this lady's interesting, I work in the game industry too, I'm going to do her a favor and I'm going to send her my employee training manual, I'd be pretty happy. But I don't know how to do those things. And I really kind of wish that I had time to go get a business degree before I ran this business, but there's no way that's in the equation. I'm a mom, I have a mortgage, I'm a working professional. This is very doable for us because my dad works, my husband works, I work, my nephew works, and we're honestly open less than 40 hours a week right now. And I'd love to be able to know enough to hire an employee to improve those hours. It is one of my goals that eventually, maybe year 2, maybe year 1, that we're open 10 hours a day, maybe even open 7 days a week. But it's not happening right now because I'm the limiter. I don't know how to train anybody. I don't know how to hire people. I don't know how to put a no-compete clause into our employee packet. And I guess we can still grow plenty with our family, but there are lots of growth opportunities. I would love to take on. The store is actually being very successful. If you would have asked me before I started Mind Sculpt Games if in month 3 I thought the store could earn more than our online portals, I kind of would have laughed at you and I would have said, no way. We're too fluid. We're too experienced. It takes a ton of effort to learn how to sell successfully on TCGplayer, and it takes way more effort to have 100% feedback on that account. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything, but I'm just telling you, if you want to get started in Magic finance, you do need to go through routes that the IRS can track. That's important. And you also, you got to be ready to learn. For a long time, that is less than a minimum wage job. Like I said, I've been selling since I was 13. I probably wasn't making a profit for a long, long time. When I was 13, it wasn't financially worth it for me to be interested in buying and selling magic. It was worth it because it was part of my hobby. And again, I wouldn't have sold in anybody else's store, but it takes a long time for singles to be worth it to somebody. Now, being in, knowing the cards, like if someone were to put a fake Gaia's Cradle in front of me because I've touched Gaia's Cradle since I was 13, I'd know right away. Now, somebody who just started playing in the last couple sets, that advantage isn't there. They haven't touched very many Gaia's Cradles. They can't pull a Gaia's Cradle out of the case and compare it side by side. It's harder. And shipping logistics, can I just begin to tell you how much I learned about shipping in the last month and a half of eBay sales when I had all these different sized and shaped War Machine things, and I had to worry about profit margin on each one to try to sell it in a way that doubles my money or whatever. Do you know how easy it is to lose money on bad shipping or printing the shipping label and sticking it to the wrong thing? Yes, I've done that. Terrible experience. Or not checking the pip code close enough and sending Hrothgar the Avenger instead of Hrothgar the Crusader. I made that one up, but I've done something like that too. The wall to climb for knowledge is huge. And there's a big advantage in us having now 20,000 feedback on TCGplayer because people look at us as a reliable, trusted source. We're connected to a store. We have the brick and mortar authentication through TCGplayer. Our credibility is much bigger than when I was one of the first to create a TCGplayer account, so I guess that makes it, I don't know, 7 years ago? But I was selling on there as a level 1 seller, level 2, 3, 4. But then there's so much more than level 4 sellers that we've been able to go through now with direct and pro and being a brick and mortar and having our pre-sales enabled. It's just crazy. And as a side note, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but we actually moved 20 commander decks online through pre-sales all above MSRP, even after fees. After fees, above MSRP. Like, timing was right, pre-sales were right, but that's the first time I've ever been able to pre-sale product online and to put it above MSRP. That's our first pre-sale experience. So learning every day, wondering what to do, hoping people don't think that day 1 is what we're going to be like on day 300, hoping our customers are flexible with us, hoping people don't want to treat us like a pawn shop, and certainly hoping that people don't want to treat us like our store is theirs to sell things in. So lots to learn. Excited because our growth is good, but a little scared too because our growth is in the areas that perhaps I'm least prepared for. We got a store that feels good. It looks nice. I read Why We Buy as a book, and I tried to build our store off of that, and whatever a 300-page book can teach you, I tried to put in place, but that doesn't take the place of retail experience or marketing classes, and I honestly just hope we're doing okay. I hope our players choose to support us. And if we're going to have more local sales than online sales, I mean, I really hope a collection walks in the door, but I love to serve our community, and I hope Great Bend continues to grow and be strong, and we join the Chamber of Commerce, and we want to invest in our community, and we want to help families learn to read and do math together and have that real interaction. You want to know the coolest thing for me as a parent when I get a board game and I sit down to play with my kids? I don't touch my phone. Do you know how much mom guilt I have because my kids are playing around me and I'm on my phone on the couch and I'm just like, oh, Eli, leave me alone. Go find something to do. Those moments happen. But the magic of a board game for a mom like me is that when I pull it out, I know I'm going to interact with my kids. And I just hope our community can get more of that genuine interaction, that face-to-face interaction, that incentivized learning that's fun and really does teach them math and science. So I've rambled a lot, but I'm excited for month 3. I'm excited about what Mind Sculpt Games has been able to do in the first 3 months, and I'm really proud that we are serving our community in a way that they care about, appreciate, and support. So it's really cool that our in-store sales can sustain the business. Thanks for participating with us, Great Bend and Barton County. It's been fun to serve you.